You know that feeling, right? When you're trying to really get your head around something important, but you just feel kind of stuck.
Uh-huh. Like you're missing something.
Exactly, like you're missing that key piece.
Yeah.
Well, that's what we try to tackle here on the deep dive.
Yeah.
We dig into complex stuff and boil it down to the insights that can actually make a difference for you.
And today, our focus is on Robert Greene. He's just, well, such a sharp observer of people, power dynamics, human behavior.
Absolutely.
We've been digging really deep into an analysis of one of his interviews, basically hunting for those really mind-blowing perspectives, the kind that might actually shift how you see things.
Yeah, the ones that aren't just, common knowledge. We set a pretty high bar, didn't we?
We did. Very high.
We weren't just looking for surface level stuff.
Mm.
We wanted those profound nuggets that can genuinely reframe your thinking.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack these nuanced ideas from Greene.
And maybe even push a little beyond them. Explore some related concepts that take his work maybe a step further.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it as getting the essentials plus some unexpected insights you can really use. So let's dive right in. First up, a concept that often catches people off guard, the real impact of powerlessness.
Yeah, this one's interesting. What's really insightful in Greene's take, and he references people like Malcolm X here, is this idea that the feeling of being powerless, that can actually be way more damaging than, actually having power.
That flips the script, doesn't it? We always hear power corrupts.
Right. But Greene suggests that lacking agency, feeling like you have no control, that breeds this really toxic kind of resentment. Like the lack of power becomes its own corrosive force.
So it's like when you feel totally cornered, the instinct isn't always constructive if you suddenly get some control.
Exactly. Greene points out that feeling trapped can lead to some, well, negative actions, even what he calls these weird negative games people play, just to feel some kind of control.
It's a really thought-provoking angle. The analysis we looked at actually gave this an insight impact score of 9.20.
Yeah.
So pretty significant.
And it makes sense, I think. If you look wider, it could explain a lot of behavior that seems maybe irrational on the surface.
Like what?
Well, when people feel invisible, like they don't matter, maybe their actions are more about just needing to exert some force, make some impact, even if it's destructive. Less about, building something positive.
Okay, so for you listening, what's the takeaway? The actionable thing here is maybe about self-awareness. Noticing that feeling inside yourself.
Right. When you feel that twinge of powerlessness creeping in, instead of just letting frustration build or, reacting badly.
Try this. Identify one small, direct action you can take. Maybe it doesn't solve the whole thing.
Probably won't. But it shifts you, doesn't it? From
Yeah.
feeling passive to being active, even if that action is just gathering more info to understand things better.
Good point. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. There's this other fascinating idea about consciously playing different roles in life, almost like historical wisdom.
Yeah. This connects to how we present ourselves. Greene brings up Richard Sennett's book, The Fall of Public Man. And what's really striking is looking back, say, to the 18th century. Back then, public life was kind of understood as, well, playing a role, like being an actor on a stage, but consciously.
Right, and it wasn't seen as fake or inauthentic then, was it? It was deliberate.
Exactly. And crucially, there was a clear line, a boundary between that public persona and your private self. You could perform in public, then go home and just be.
Without the pressure we feel today, maybe,
Mm-hmm.
this constant need to be authentic and consistent everywhere, all the time. The score for this one was 890, by the way. Still really high.
And that historical view really highlights a modern problem, doesn't it? I mean, maybe some of our modern anxiety and identity issues come from blurring that line.
How so?
We tend to mash everything together, right? Our job title, our online self, our family role. We merge it all with our core identity. So when those roles clash or feel unsatisfying...
It feels like we're failing or being fake.
Yeah.
It creates conflict inside.
Exactly. So the actionable idea here is maybe trying a little mindful separation, like an experiment.
Yeah.
For just one day, maybe. Consciously notice the different roles you step into. The professional you, the friend you, the parent you, whatever.
And see them not as your core self,
Mm-hmm.
but as adaptations, skills for different situations.
Precisely. Recognize them as skillful ways of navigating different contexts. And then, importantly, when you're in private, consciously try to, drop the mask. Relax those performed bits. Notice how that feels.
Reclaiming that distinction. Public role, private self.
Interesting. Okay, let's tackle another big one, passion. specifically passion versus something deeper for achieving mastery,
Right, and here Greene kind of pushes back against that common advice, just follow your passion
which you hear everywhere.
everywhere. He suggests passion is great for the initial spark, sure, but maybe it's not enough fuel for the long, hard slog towards real mastery.
Because passion can fade, it can be fickle. It can be fleeting, yeah, influenced by novelty or what other people think. So the core insight is lasting mastery needs something deeper than just passion. It needs what Greene calls your life's task.
Okay, life's task. Unpack that a bit.
It's described as this deeper, more intrinsic pull, something rooted in your innate inclinations, often something you felt drawn to, maybe even as a kid, without really knowing why.
Not just excitement, but a deep connection.
Exactly, a profound, enduring connection to a certain field or type of activity. This insight scored a 9.05, so again, very impactful.
And why is that life's task concept so crucial then? More than just passion.
Well, think about it from a wider perspective. That deeper connection, that life's task, it provides the resilience you need, right? To push through the inevitable boredom, the tedium, the setbacks.
The parts that aren't passionate or glamorous?
Precisely. Passion might get you started, but the life's task is the undercurrent that keeps you going when things get tough or just plain boring.
Okay, so for you listening, the action here is reflective. It's about looking back.
Yeah, maybe take some time, journal, or just think back. Childhood, early adulthood, what activities just absorbed you completely, effortlessly?
What did you really enjoy, even if it seemed silly or impractical?
What skills were you using without even thinking about it? What kinds of problems did you just naturally gravitate towards solving?
And then ask, could there be an underlying interest or skill or way of thinking from back then?
That you can maybe reintegrate now,
Mhm.
explore more deeply. It's about tapping into that intrinsic drive, that thing that's deeper than just, today's enthusiasm.
That makes a lot of sense. Okay, let's shift again. Let's talk about connection,
Yeah.
specifically vulnerability, often misunderstood.
Yeah, and Greene offers a really nuanced take here. He draws a sharp line between genuine vulnerability and just insecurity.
Okay.
And what's really insightful is his idea that true vulnerability can actually be, well, he uses the word seductive.
Seductive. How so? Not in the manipulative way, surely.
No, not manipulative, more in its power to draw people in, create connection. It signals openness, authenticity. It kind of invites empathy, invites care.
Ah, okay. He even connects it to the word's origin, right?
Yeah.
Like a wound needing care. Makes sense. This scored 8.75, by the way. Still strong.
Exactly. And that's the key difference from insecurity. Insecurity, Greene argues, is often really self-absorbed, focused on your own flaws, your own needs.
And that tends to push people away or make them uncomfortable.
Right. It creates distance. True vulnerability isn't weakness. It's not fishing for validation. It's just authentic exposure, being real.
So the actionable step here is maybe a small experiment in connection.
Could be. Next time you want to build a bit more rapport, maybe consider sharing something small but genuine, an uncertainty you have, or a moment you felt a bit, exposed.
But the key is it's not a complaint, right? Not
Yeah.
dumping.
Definitely not. Not a bid for sympathy, just a sincere, contained little piece of your authentic self. And then just observe. See how the other person responds. Does it build a bridge like vulnerability often does? Or does it create that awkwardness insecurity can bring?
Interesting experiment. Okay, now, we're going to step a little bit beyond the direct analysis of that specific Greene interview.
Yeah, explore some related concepts that really resonate with his themes, but maybe take them into even deeper territory.
We're calling these our frontier insights. And just for context, each of these scored a massive 9.99 for potential impact in our analysis.
Yeah.
Really powerful stuff.
Okay, first one. Building on Greene's ideas about power. What if we think about power dynamics not just as direct A influences B, but more like, well, quantum entanglement?
Oh, quantum entanglement. Unpack that.
It's this idea of an unseen web, interconnectedness, where influence and consequences ripple out across seemingly totally separate areas of life.
Okay, give me an example. Like a big company makes a purely financial decision.
Right, it seems isolated, but maybe it subtly impacts community trust somewhere else, or even affects how people feel in their personal relationships down the line because of the economic stress it causes, or...
Or a political event erodes trust in institutions, and that lack of trust then changes how neighbors interact.
Exactly. It's this idea that the underlying patterns, how we seek power, avoid it, use influence these patterns, might be fractal. They repeat at different scales, from the personal to the global.
So mastering life or leadership or even just relationships involves seeing these hidden threads, these entanglements.
Developing an awareness of them, yeah. Understanding that an action here might have subtle but real effects way over there.
Okay, so the actionable step. This sounds challenging. How do you act on that?
It's about broadening your view. Before a big decision, maybe in your career, pause. Really think about, say, three seemingly unrelated areas of your life.
Like relationships, health, a hobby.
Could be anything. And just try to intuit, to feel out how might this big career move subtly shift the energy or the dynamics in those distant areas. It's looking beyond the obvious cause and effect.
Deep. Okay, next, frontier insight. This one's about time and strategy.
Yeah, we're calling this the chrono-strategic imperative. Chrono for time, right?
Got it.
It's about recognizing that truly effective strategists, the ones who really shape things, they think across huge spans of time. They're not just reacting to today.
They're playing the long, though.
A very long game. They're actively cultivating future possibilities by seeding latent potentials right now in the present.
Seeding the future. I like that image. So, small actions today.
Yeah.
Planting ideas, maybe making structural changes, investing in certain relationships, learning specific skills.
Exactly. Things that might seem tiny or insignificant now, but they create the fertile ground for something much bigger to grow later. Years, decades, maybe even generations later.
Like planting an acorn. You don't get the oak tree tomorrow.
Precisely. It demands incredible patience, a focus on laying groundwork, even if you won't personally see the final result.
Okay, actionable step for this one. For thinking long term.
Identify a really significant long-term goal, something maybe 10, 20 years out, or even something for the next generation.
Okay.
Then ask, what's the absolute smallest seed, an idea, a skill, a connection, a habit? What's the tiny thing I can plant or nurture today that starts creating the right conditions for that future?
And then commit to tending that seed, however small, even without immediate payoff.
That's the imperative. Okay, final frontier insight. This one is subtle. It's about influence.
More subtle than vulnerability.
Oh, yeah. We're calling it ontological seduction.
Ontological seduction sounds intense.
It kind of is. It goes way beyond normal persuasion or argument. It's the delicate art of influencing someone by gently shifting their fundamental perception of reality, their understanding of who they are.
Whoa, okay. So you're not telling them what to think.
Not at all. You're crafting an experience, maybe posing a question, creating a narrative that leads them to independently arrive at a new way of seeing things, a new understanding of themselves or the world.
And the key is, they believe the shift came entirely from within them.
That's the core of it. That's why it's so powerful and potentially lasting. It operates at the level of deep assumptions, paradigm shifts, myth-making almost.
Which means it also carries some serious ethical weight, I imagine.
Absolutely. Huge ethical considerations. This isn't about manipulation for selfish gain, or shouldn't be. It's more about deep leadership or inspiration.
So the actionable step here. This sounds advanced and needs caution.
Very advanced, yes. And extreme ethical care is paramount. But the principle could be applied gently. If you're trying to inspire change in someone, instead of arguing, focus on crafting an experience, or maybe just asking a carefully considered question.
That gently challenges one of their fundamental assumptions, without even offering your answer.
Exactly. Let them wrestle with it. Let the shift happen internally, if it's going to happen. It's about opening a door, not pushing them through it.
Wow. Okay, so quite a journey we've taken today.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did.
Ah.
We dove into Greene's insights on the surprising damage of powerlessness,
The historical wisdom of conscious role-playing.
finding that deeper life's task beyond just passion.
The connection power of real vulnerability, not insecurity.
And then we pushed into those frontier ideas.
Yeah.
Power is entanglement, the long-term view of a chronostrategy, and this deep influence of ontological seduction.
Yeah, the aim for all of this, drawing from Greene and then sort of riffing on it, is really just to offer you a fresh lens, a new way to maybe understand yourself, your interactions, and the bigger forces playing out around us.
Absolutely. And maybe just a final thought for you to chew on as we wrap up. How might really internalizing these deeper dynamics, the pull of powerlessness, the choice in your roles, your life's task, true vulnerability, the unseen connections, the long game, the nature of perception, how might understanding all that subtly shift how you approach your own challenges, your own goals moving forward?
Something to think about.
Definitely something to think about. We hope you'll keep exploring these ideas in your own life.